Good morning. Remember me? I used to go fishing and make the odd video. What a season it's been. I haven't been out for 7 weeks. The weather hindered it a lot. When I was free, the weather was windy, and then I had a little issue with the engine. The trim motor went on it, so I had to put it in the boatyard, and they're very efficient at the boatyard that I use, Frogmore Marine Services, but it was waiting for parts. You could get cheap stuff off eBay and the like, but I wanted, it's quite important, the trim motor, especially for somebody on a mud mooring, because you don't want to not be able to get the engine up. I know there's a manual override, but it's a heavy engine. When it's on the mud, you'd struggle to lift it, and if it ended up stuck down and in the mud with the estuary mud going in the water intake, etc, etc. So yeah, I haven't been out for 7 weeks. So August summer fishing didn't happen at all. Here we are in September, and we've got a glorious day, which I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting to get out today at all, really. I was out on the coast yesterday and it was hideous, but today is much nicer. So if yesterday's hideousness has gone, I'll hopefully get out onto a reef. The tide is really nice. We're just after a new moon. We've got a waxing crescent. It's not a big new moon. You don't need to know this, but it is quite interesting. The distance from the moon from the Earth is about 225,000 to 250,000 miles, something like that. The maximum 252,088 miles. Today it's 252,065 miles, so it's about as far away as the moon gets, meaning we're just after the new moon, so we've got spring tides, but it's really far away, so the gravitational pull isn't so big, so it's not a big spring tide. So hoping to get out onto a reef. Target species today, I don't care. I've had a bacon sandwich. Coming down the estuary this morning, I saw a kingfisher at the head of the estuary. Also saw a dipper, which I've never seen here before. We get them on our freshwater rivers, but yeah, never seen one on the estuary before. No doubt they are here, I've just never seen one. And I've had a bacon roll and a cup of tea. So fantastic start to the day already. If I can put a bend in the rod and bring something home for dinner, that'll be an absolute bonus. So I've got no bait because I wasn't expecting this weather window, to be honest. Tomorrow's horrible, really heavy rain and stronger winds coming in, so just a little gap in the weather. Get out onto the reef and see what we can find. I'll see you out there. Right, here we are out on the reef. Conditions pretty much as expected, a little bit choppy from yesterday's weather, and we've also got a northeasterly today, which was forecast. It's forecast to get a little bit stronger as the day goes on, so we'll see how it goes and play it by ear. It's just high water at Salcombe, which means out here it's going to be in a couple of hours time. I'm really hoping to fish with lures on the ebb tide, so that's going to be in an hour and a bit's time, maybe a little bit earlier, because we've got the east wind, so the east wind and the ebb tide are in the same direction. So I've got various things set up, I'll show you as I go along. First of all, drop some mackerel feathers down, see if there's any life on the reef. It's really good to be just out after 7 weeks of denied fishing. I have to say hello to Steve as well, who subscribes to the channel. He's down in Salcombe at the moment with his rib. He did ask me, did invite me onto his rib this week, but for work commitments and various other reasons I couldn't make it. And I did see if he was available today to come out in his rib, and he's got some family commitments today, so hope you've had a good week, Steve. Anyway, he had some nice lobster. Yeah, good to be out. Let's see if there's some fish to add to it. Well, drift one wasn't too productive. One tiny little porcod, which wouldn't have survived if I'd have returned it, so I'll keep that for bait. But I've got the angle of the drift sorted now, so let's hope for better things with drift 2. Still just on the feathers. I have got a lure rigged ready, which I might give a go in a minute, because we've got 0.8 of a knot of the last of the flood tide. I'd like a little bit more, but that'll come with the ebb tide, especially with the wind and tide together. Feels like bait more than food, but there is something there. Or was. No, still there. Wouldn't surprise me if it was another little tiny fork cod. Oh, no, it's not. Excellent. Not as small as it felt. Not huge, but it is easily eating size. Half a dozen of those for dinner would be perfect. I'd be a happy boy. Well, the last one I said wasn't mackerel, and it was. This one I'm saying is mackerel. So we'll see. Wrong again. Not as pretty as their male counterparts, but a female cuckoo. Going straight back down. Lovely to catch, 3 species already. But 1 mackerel is not going to feed the family. Early days. And I'm not going to call another fish until I see it on the surface. Some are obvious, their fights are very distinctive, but mackerel, wrasse, gurnard, small bass, their fights are quite similar. To a novice like me anyway. So I'm not calling this one a mystery fish, but the fish are there. Get it out of the way early, eh? The fishing Salcombe pout. I'll keep that one for bait. Obviously we're on the flood, or not obviously, but as I mentioned, we are on the flood tide at the moment, and then we're waiting for the ebb tide. There'll be a slack tide period, so it's nice to have a little bit of bait to fish that slack tide when it happens in a short while. That first mackerel is now cleaned and filleted and on ice, which has given me some belly flaps. So that's just stripped up and on the mackerel feathers for a bit of extra scent. Yeah, good second drift there. We've got a mackerel head, a pout and a poor cod in the bait bucket, and a mackerel for the pot in the igloo. See what drift 3 brings with a bit of scent on the feathers as well. I like all different types of fishing, but if I had to do one type of fishing on this reef, for this area, on this reef, there's something. On this reef is great. It's just such a variety of fish. Not huge, the wrecks around here will produce bigger fish. Oh, just lost it. Lost it, wherever that was. Yeah, the wrecks will produce bigger fish, but this is just so nice. It's easy fishing in a way, nice long drifts. You can achieve something at all sorts of different stages of the tide. And you can lose fish like I just have. very soft here. We're right on the top of the reef, which is, it can be rocky, but it feels like it's got a covering of sand. Yeah, going back to the reef, it's just nice to fish a reef. You can fish at all sorts of different stages of the tide. The tide's not strong enough to lure fish in, so baited feathers are just brilliant. You know, really simple. They'll pick stuff up if it's there, and then when the tide does pick up, I'll swap to lures. Might have a bit of slack tide first, so I'll fish on the bottom. Might try that sandy bit with a bit of bait on. Might try a rough bit. See what's lurking. You never know. More bait. Nice stripy one though. This one's got a little more fight to it. It's another spinner though. Another pout, but that one will return. Its eyes are in good condition. There's no swim bladder out. Yep, and it's straight back. Happy days. Oh, I hope they're not going to have a plague of those. Last one on this drift. Let's see what it is. Hold still a second. Species number 5 to the baited feathers. Pretty little red gurnard. Straight back down. Okay, still catching fish, but the tide slacked off a little bit, so what I've got now is take you to the bait table. So all that tangled up on. Great camera work. Sliding boom, 200 pounds of mono going on to an 8.0 Sea Beast, and I've just flapped off one of those pout. Could be a ling on the bottom, we'll see. So I'm going to go to a rougher area of the reef, drop that down and see what we can find. One of the really nice things about reef fishing is you get such a variety of fishing in a small area. I'm literally 240 metres away from where I was before, fishing over a pinnacle for the first 3 drifts. Now I've just moved over to a bit of a plateau, but it's rough ground. It is flattish ground, but rough with it. So I've got the mackerel feathers over the back, just on a light dragon on the ratchet, about 5 metres off the bottom. And this pouting flapper is on the bottom. So fishing this on the bottom at the moment, chances are slim. If I really wanted to catch a ling, I'd go onto one of the wrecks where in more of a concentrated area you've got a better chance of catching a ling. But this is sort of the slack tide period where I'm catching lots of pout using the mackerel feathers, but it won't be any good putting the lure down yet because the predatory fish are not feeding. I was watching a David Attenborough programme last night, one of the Planet Earth 2 ones, where he was looking at coral reefs and the like. And the sharks that were there, what turned them on to feeding was night time. And in the daytime, the fish that they were eating at night were quite happily swimming by them. So a bit of interest there. Yeah, the fish were quite happily swimming by them, knowing that they were not going to get eaten. Something's having a go at the pout here. Give it a bit of line a sec. I think it's small fish pecking at it, but we'll give it a bit of line for a sec. Yeah, and then as soon as it got night, the small fish were hiding because they knew that the sharks were on the hunt. On a smaller scale, on a reef, without the tide, the predatory fish are not eating their bait fish, so they're not going to come to my lures. Once the tide picks up, then the predatory fish will be out. I'll pop my lures down, hoping that they think it's bait fish, and we'll see how we get on. Meanwhile, something's having a go at the pouting. My feeling is the pouting are not very respectful to their species, and there's more of them trying to tear that one apart. The ebb tide is just starting to set in. Yeah, just half a knot adrift, and a lot of that's going to be the wind pushing us along at the moment. So sticking with the mackerel feathers for a minute. If the pollock start coming to the mackerel feathers, it means the predators are feeding, or bass. So I'm sticking with the mackerel feathers because it would be nice to have something to go with that solitary mackerel in the igloo. But if the pollock start feeding, I'll go on to lures and see if there are any bass around with them as well. Something scrappy on the mackerel feathers. Scrappy was the word for it. Tiny little cuckoo. Well, I've absolutely no idea what I've hooked into here, but I think I'm going to have to be a bit careful to bring it in on feathers. It's large, whatever it is. It's certainly large for feathers. Got some colour. Well, this is a first for me. If I can get it in. Let me get it unhooked and out of the net and I'll show you. Got a codling. I've never caught a cod on mackerel feathers before. Species 6 too, and that is yeah, that's big enough to get a little fillet off that. So if that's around and feeding, I'm going on to lures. Marvellous. Right, lure fishing. Let's see. Nothing could be simpler. Pen ugly stick, sorry, Shakespeare ugly stick GX2, Pen Fathom 2-speed lever drag, 15 size, 40-pound braid, and then on the other end Sliding boom with a 6-ounce lead to start with. The tide isn't very strong. Some 25-pound fluorocarbon, about 8 foot. Going on to, I've got a Bomb Squad natural colour. Yeah, 4-inch lure on there, tied on with a used to be called a non-slip blood knot, but if you look it up, most people are calling it a Rapala knot these days. Just gives a loop on the end that so the lure can, is free to have full action rather than be restricted by a knot at the line. That's the theory. Then for lure fishing at its simplest, nothing could be easier. Get it down to the bottom, a couple of turns to wind it away from the weed and the pouting, and then just gently wind. Depend on the depth of water, I'll go 20 turns here, which is about 10 meters. Vary the speed of the retrieve, vary the number of turns that you bring it up. Let it down to the bottom and start again. The trick with it, now, and I don't always do this on camera for 2 reasons. One, it's not that easy to do, but 2, it sort of looks better, which I know is an awful thing to do. But if you're lure fishing, you don't strike, you just keep on winding. Bass will sometimes hit it, which means they're swimming along and they'll flick it with their tail, and then they'll turn around and eat it. So if you strike it, you're just pulling it out of the way. Other fish, pollock, will equally, they'll have a bite at the tail and then they'll turn around and come back at it. So if you strike, you're just pulling it out of the way. Or sometimes as well, if you've just got a gentle lip hook, if you strike, you'll just pull it out. So just continue winding, and the fish will hook itself if it's there. Again, that's the theory. The wind doesn't seem like it's coming to too much. It's about the same as it was this morning, not getting up, so all good there. Really good, really nice to have that cod. Something to join the single mackerel. And 6 species, so yeah, good to get back out on the water and catch some fish. Not the most table-worthy fish I'll give you, apart from the cod and the mackerel. But yeah, nice to catch fish, whatever they are. I was getting loads of bites, so I've just went for a slightly faster retrieve, and that has hooked it. And that's what they are. Loads of pouting down there. So I'm going to change lures, change position, put a bigger weight on. Let's see if we can't get a change of form. Okay, slightly heavier weight. Changed the lure, gone on to a sidewinder, 4-inch jerry, creature of habit. Upped it to an 8-ounce lead from a 6. Slightly different area of reef, a bit deeper here. We're 45 metres, and the drift is picking up now, 1.2, 1.3 knots. See if it works. Yes, it has worked. It's not huge, but it's not a pouting. Well, if it is, it's a big one. Oh, just come off. that was going back anyway. That was a lovely condition pollock, that was, probably about £4, something like that. How I managed to catch it with this all tangled up, I'll untangle this and drop down for another try. Well, for some reason that sideline is getting tangled right up on the main line, so I'm going over to one of the new Renaissance eels from Daisy Rose. I'd really like to give it a go on the surface for bass, but it's not that sort of day, so try it here and see how we get on. I can't quite fish this bit of reef that I wanted to fish. You won't see the distant one on the camera, but there's a buoy there, a down buoy over there. So there's a string of pots between the two. I really wanted to be a little bit further, but if I drift through the string of pots, I'm just going to end up hooking onto them. So we'll just give it this one drift here, and then I'll go to a third bit of the reef. Unless it's good. Saying that, there are fish here. First try with that Renaissance eel, so yeah, promising. Nice little inshore pollock, and there's that eel just lip hooked. Right, yeah, that's lovely. Puts a bend on the rod, and that, I think that's species 8 pollock. I was going to count that last one, but he didn't really get landed, so that one's definitely species 8. Right, let's move on and try that eel somewhere else. Well, so far the reef's not behaving as I expected. Not disappointing by any means, 8 species so far, so that's good. But I was really hoping by the time the tide had picked up to what it is now, a knot and a half, that there might have been some bass here. And I've not had a sniff on several drifts, so I'm going to give it one more drift here, and if it's still not behaving itself, I'm going to pop out to the closest wreck to where I am. I'm out on 2 tides today, so I've got plenty of time, and it'll give us a smoother ride in at the moment, smoother ride in when it comes to going home as well, because at the moment Salcombe is directly into this northeasterly, which is not big, but just going to be pounding straight into it, whereas if I go out to the wreck, it'll be a bit more on the beam for going in. We'll see. If this drift produces a bass, I'll stay here. If not, we'll head to the wreck. It's never that easy to predict what's going to be where, and it seems to be a common thread that the seasons are all changing. September, I've had some really good days out here on September days. Bottom there a bit. And there are lots of fish here, definitely. You know, 8 species, loads and loads of pout. Solitary cod, solitary mackerel. But the bass are lacking, so yeah, give this a go and then think of something else if this doesn't produce the goods this drift. Well, that was a bouncy ride over, but we've arrived at the wreck. Let's see if we can get the drift right. It's a bit tricky in these conditions with the breeze and the tide, but we'll give it a go. I've got nearly 2 knots adrift, which is on the strong side, but we'll so it's going to be fairly quickly over the wreck, assuming I hit it. See if there's anything doing here. What have we got? We're in 63 meters, 1.9 knots adrift. Got that Renaissance Elon. Let's see if there are fish here. Not quite right on the first drift by the look of it. I'm going to hit the tail end of the wreck, but not right over it. That's alright, we'll adjust that for the second drift, but this one's worth pressing on with. We're just going to clip the wreck. Yeah, we're off the wreck now. We did just clip the tail end of it, but what I'll do is just continue this drift a little bit, because you never know. But it'll give me a line on the plotter to adjust my track to. We'll see. I think the wind just caught me at the end there. I know that's an excuse, but we're back on the same track. That's rubbish. Put us in the same place as last time. Alright, try for a third time and see if we can actually go wreck fishing over a wreck this time. Third time lucky. This looks better. Right, we're over the wreck. Are there any fish on it? Has the east wind put them off? It's an excuse, I've got plenty. The east wind has not put them off. It's not a big fish, but it's a fish. Wreck fishing's so much more successful if you're somewhere near it. That's coming to life a little bit. Little pollock. Absolutely swallowed that lure. Yep. Gonna need the pliers for this one. That one will return anyway. I'll pop this one back and then reposition. See if there's a bigger one down there. I'll fish this for a bit. It's drifting over quite quickly. I want to leave some time at the end of the day as well to go a bit closer inshore and try and find a mackerel mark. Yeah, so there's something to go with that one mackerel. Well, that's several drifts, but 3 really good drifts, and this will be the 4th. This one's lining up really nicely, so 4 good drifts over the wreck. See what this one does. 3 good drifts for 1 pollock is not good wreck fishing. Let's change the lure for something brighter. The sea's very dark. So I'll go for something luminous, see if that makes any difference. If that doesn't do it, I'll just give it one drift and then go on the hunt for some mackerel. Right, definitely going brighter. I've gone big and I've gone pink. Last chance for this wreck to redeem itself. One little pluck at the start of the wreck there, and it felt like pout, just on the tail of the lure. So yeah, we'll go mackerel hunting. Well, I came on the hunt for mackerel. First drop, ever found them. Certainly feels very mackerel-like. Although I have been wrong today, at least twice. Beautiful string. Well, I'd like 5 for dinner. 1 before and that's 3. So I'd like 6 for dinner, 5 more. So 2 more and that'd be perfect. Could be the dinner order satisfied. Spoke too soon. Nice red gurnard though. So tough. Lovely gurnard, nice to catch, but not what I'm after. Another gurnard. Is this the dinner order complete, or is it another gurnard? Well, it's halfway there. Well, this feels altogether heavier, so it's either a stringful or something different. Not exactly a stringful, a foul hooked gurnard, which is why it felt heavy, and possibly the smallest mackerel I've ever seen in my life. I can return. And so can that. Well, nothing else to report. I tried for that final mackerel. I did bring up a couple more gurnard and a scad, but my battery was running flat. So the aim of the day was nothing specific really, just to get out, hopefully take something home for the table. And we've got a nice cod. We've got 5 mackerel, which are on ice, and a scad to go in the freezer for bait. So yeah, all decent. I think we had 8 species. To start with, poor cod, pout, mackerel, cod, red gurnard, cuckoo wrasse, pollock, scad. I thought there was another one as well. maybe I'll think of it. Anyway, 8 or 9 species, so brilliant. Mixed bag, and I'll take that for an east wind day. I don't know what it is about the east wind. I've heard several theories, but fact of the matter is, when the east wind blows, you catch less fish. That's just the way it is. So bearing all that in mind, yeah, a good day's fishing. Great to be back on the water. I can't get out for the next 2 weekends for various reasons, but hopefully it won't be another 7 weeks before I can get out and bring another video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Cheers.